therefore their notion and their reasons for becoming fluent in the language is also very hazy and fuzzy. Children need a job. They are desperate about a job today, but then perhaps they are not a crowd that's willing to put in that kind of effort. So for people like me with over 31 years of service teaching engineering graduates, earlier it used to be a matter of pride to teach students, and some very poor children who got into some very big positions. I've had students of mine who worked in the same office as Steve Jobs when Steve Jobs was alive. And they were children who came from very humble backgrounds. But today you have children who are very muddled in their heads, as it were. And I think maybe clubs like you all have should play a greater role. We cannot afford to work in silos any longer. And unless we kind of, become more inclusive, it is difficult. The challenge is more for the college teacher, particularly the English language teacher, because the English language teacher is not just expected to teach the learners English, but also give them the kind of skills that will make them job ready. I will say fewer candidates these days are ready to take up employment.
Thank you very much.
It's a huge challenge.
Thank you very much, Dr. So it's very interesting and insightful to know that it's not the communication that has changed. The people who are attempting to communicate have changed, along with it, the challenges so far. Moving on to my next question to Bhagavati is, what does the industry expect? The kind of communication skills from the aspiring candidates or freshers, or it could be even experienced people, compared to how it was maybe a decade ago.
Sorry, my voice is usually a little low, so just keep a check if I'm not clear on the people sitting behind. First of all, I'm very happy to be here because at some point in my journey I was with Toastmasters, and it definitely had a big effect on my journey. I'm seeing this crowd who is dedicating their Saturday afternoon to be here to improve on yourself. It's amazing. And when I walked in, I heard Jayashree speak like 2 minutes into every single person. I was like, I can't do this at all. And now I felt the pressure of being here. Now to Guru's question on what is industry expecting. See, right now the workforce. I work in a tech company. I work for Citibank from the technology division. So one of the big changes that we see is we deal with diverse multi-generational workforce as we speak, right? Which was not the case in the past. So which is like 5 generations of workforce that we see, and each generation has their own strengths and weakness coming along with it. Now Gen Zs, I'll speak of Gen Zs because this topic is on 2030. So our workforce currently I can say is about 25% of Gen Zs, and let's say in 2030 it's expected to go to at least 30 to 35%. Now from that perspective, we need to understand how Gen Zs have come so far and where they are today, and how do we see them in the future, right? So Gen Zs, like ma'am said, they are a little privileged from that perspective, right? When they come into the workforce, English is no longer for them a very difficult language, right? Because they speak very fluently already. I mean, I don't even have to tell my age. If I tell this one word, you will know which generation I belong to. When it comes to English, any guesses? Renan Martin. Right? Every single household will have a Renan Martin. A library will have a Renan Martin, and parents saying, "Oh, please do read this at least for 10 minutes," and I did. Right? But this generation doesn't need that because they are exposed and they're digitally native. They have a lot of exposure to things come very naturally to them, right? Even when they come to the workforce, learning a language, it's all very natural. I still remember in plus 2, I used to have a computer science book where I was studying about CPU and mouse. I'm like, come on, probably LKG kid knows that, right? So that was the difference between the current Gen Z and us. When we came into the workforce, they are 10 times smarter than us when they are here in the workforce now. So what are we dealing with then, right? So they know things, they know how to get things done without a manager or somebody telling them when it comes to developing a software or things like that. But I think where the shortcoming is, I'll emphasize on active listening, right? Can you take a guess on what is the attention span of a Gen Z? Average attention span of a Gen Z?
10 seconds. 20 seconds. 1
Milliseconds.
Closer.
1 minute.
Yes, unfortunately, it is 8 seconds.
Oh.
And that's just one less than an attention span of a jellyfish. Right? So, yeah, I think, having said that, the active listening is something that we have to be inculcating in emphasizing for not just the Gen Zs, other generational workforces as well that's working along with the Gen Zs. And second thing I would say is on the interpersonal skills. I don't have to talk a lot because I heard somebody talking about when salmon fish story was there, talking already. So that's very important as well, especially because of this, right?
Yes.
All of us are, I go into a party and I see 6 kids sitting together, all glued to their phones, not talking to each other. That was not the story 10 years ago. And we all really had meaningful conversations over a coffee, right? But when they come into the workforce, you can get things done of what you can do, but in a corporate world, a largely chaotic and complicated work. I'm sure every company is like that. I don't think it's just Citibank, but it definitely needs a lot of coordination, working with different people to get things done for your growth. Right? So I think those are 2 things I would say industry expects, because there are AI and everything else is accelerating a lot of other things.
Thank you very much. So my key takeaway from what you said is, it's not the skills, it's understanding the skills of different generations and managing them together in a corporate environment, along with the shocking truth of those 8 seconds, of course. I know why I am having problems with my son.
I can go on and on about it.
So, on the same lines too, Mr. Jose, do you still think, do you agree, and do you think there's a key difference between how we were communicating earlier and how we're going to prepare the present generation students for on communication skills?
Yeah, I think the AI is playing such a huge role. Nowadays, people don't write emails in our workforce. Because when I read an email, I understand it's AI written more than the only thing the person has done is written a prompt, please write me an email for my manager, and it will give you 10, 20 lines of email. And by the time I reach line 2, I know it is not easy. And so that brings me to a crucial point, is that in this current age, people are losing their voice about who they are and who they want to be. And whenever you go to an interview, what people are checking for is not how good you are, is that are you who you say you are? Will you deliver what you will deliver? And so finding that uniqueness is becoming harder. Because all answers, like there was a university which did an exam and then they had to, or a company which did some sort of an interview process, they saw most of the resumes are almost the same. So they had to call and ask them, really, are you really who you say you are in the resume? Because it has become so much common. So finding that uniqueness, I feel, is what the corporate world requires. Your manager needs to know, will you deliver? Right? Your leader needs to know, are you ready for the session? Right? And that becomes a big challenge now, I feel.
Thank you. So, friends, the gist of whatever he said is, communication is not about what you say about yourself. It's about justifying what you said about yourself matched with the expectation of the listener. That's what I take it from you. Moving on to you, distinguished Toastmaster Saro. You are a man in 2 domains, technology as well as communication. Taking a cue from him, we all know how much technology is impacting us. Years ago, maybe a decade ago, I didn't know how to read LOL or BRB. Now it has become a language, it's become a grammar on its own. We need to generate another Renan Martin for this. What is your opinion of impact of technology on this? Is it strengthening us or weakening us?
So any technology is always a dual-edged sword, right? And reflecting on the transformation that we have gone through over the last 10 years, I personally feel there are more communication channels, but there is lesser communication that is happening every day. And like Bhagavati rightly mentioned, people are all glued to their phone doing something, but they're not communicating with the person sitting right across, right? And that is a skill actually which is the need of the hour. And Joe also mentioned about standing out from the crowd. How can you be unique? Today, I personally feel that uniqueness can come from being human when you are communicating with others, not by actually using technology, because technology treats everybody the same almost. But when you are humanizing communication, when you are trying to speak from your mind and heart, that's where you can really stand out. And technology, like I said, there are areas where it has helped people to become more effective in communication. For example, I work with a lot of clients, the HR leaders say Copilot has improved the quality of emails written by their employees. Right? Which is really true, right? Many of us use Copilot and ChatGPT to do those grammar checks, to either write a lengthy email or a condensed version of the email. So technology does help in certain aspects, but technology is also taking away the uniqueness that you bring in, your persona, your flavor, that's being taken away from you. So that's how I see it.
It's not just technology, but it's what we do with technology that matters. So what I take from that. So for example, in my home, I have a gas stove, I have induction heater, I have microwave oven. We always order in Swiggy. We have so many things we don't know what to do. So Professor, having said about technology and its influence, do you think even teaching of communication language also needs to evolve because the world is evolving towards technology?
Yeah, I think to some extent we don't have a choice, but I would say looking at the students who are in my class and a majority of children who study in a public university like Anna University, I would say we are going back to the kind of students we saw perhaps in the 70s. You see, today the gap between those, and all of us must have studied in our economics textbook, the haves and the have-nots, we are seeing them back again in our college classrooms. So it is one thing to say that I am addressing students who are tech savvy, but I can tell you in a university like mine, 70% of the children will come from the poorest of the poor families. And we should never kid ourselves as Indians that all of us have access to technology. That's a lie that we tell ourselves every day. A majority of my children sitting in my classes don't come from homes where they have even perhaps 3 square meals a day. So where is the question of technology? So I think if we are going to throw the lot on technology and say technology will do the job for us, and these are children who have arrived, I mean they are all children who have equal access to all those things that we see in the urban centers, then we are just cheating ourselves. There is a huge population out there, and in English language teaching we say children who come from the land of India and those who come from the land of Bharat. I would say 70% of children in government colleges, arts and science, and in public universities like mine will come from the land of Bharat. They will come with very little on hand. So you cannot say that technology will do the needful. It is the human teacher who has to develop. It is challenging, but it is hugely rewarding when you can see a child who's come from the neighboring slums, but who's then got into either Infosys or TCS, and then who also flies out of the country. These are miracles we see happening every day, but the numbers are small. The thing is that every child must be given equal access. That is what I believe, and that all lies in the human person who has to take the responsibility, not technology, because technology can be a huge divider in an as yet poor country like India.
I understand your concern about the technology really reaching the needy, the gap between people who are aspiring to grow using technology and their affordability to use this technology. In that case, do you also think it's a responsibility of academia to help them approach the technology, also learn the technology before learning communication skills?
I think it's up to the teacher. It is difficult. It is very difficult because sometimes you cannot recognize the child in class and sometimes you wish them away. But I remember 1990, I was in the MPhil class of my teacher and my guru, Professor V. Saraswati at Madras University. And Saras would tell us, remember, she would say from now on, college classrooms will only be filled with children who come from the poorest of the poor families. So she will say, be very grounded as a teacher. Don't say, I want my student to have this. I want my student to have a smattering of English. I want my student to be someone who will read the newspaper. I want my student, no, she will say you will get children who will perhaps not know anything. But she says it is your job as a teacher. And she said when you take up a job as a teacher, you must know it is filled with challenges. So you can use technology as a tool, but you should never say, I'm going to allow technology to dominate my classroom. It will not work. You have children who don't know anything. Sometimes you could be speaking about some things that you perhaps read in the newspaper that day, and then you will find children who cannot even nod because they don't know what that news is all about. You see, with the conflict in Iran, if you go into a college classroom today, and I'm talking about engineering students, you will find a class that is silent because no child knows. And I also have had the experience until last semester of teaching at IIIT Sri City in Chittoor, and these are children who cleared their joint entrance examination. I wouldn't say there's a big difference between them and the children who sit in a public university classroom like Anna University. So children basically don't want to know what's happening around them. All that they want is to watch those YouTube reels and watch these Insta pages, and they are totally unaware of the damage that it is doing to them. So instant gratification is what children want. They don't want anything that will make them think, and that's the job only of a human person.
Thank you. It's really heartening to know that as academia or the gurus of us, you are taking the responsibility of coaching us how to understand technology, how to understand communications, how to effectively use. Otherwise, the guy gets into a gadget, all of a sudden, he goes to job, gets a gadget, he starts using it in his or her own way without knowing the ethics behind the actual usage or actual communication to be done using the gadget. We're really thankful for your words. I'll move to the last question that is very directly connected to the topic. The same question to all of you. What is one single skill you would think is required for the current generation to cope up with the growing technology and to meet the challenges of the future? We'll start with Jose.
Yeah, there's one thing that would be that one to develop your skill and then to present your skill in the most authentic way. Because skill is going to be always required, and you will need to be able to present that authentically.
Applying this.
And applying that, and I think, and doing that with in a succinct manner. It's not the number of words; it's about what you say, right? And I feel that's important in this generation.
So you say applying the skill itself is a skill.
That's
Nicely said.
yeah.
Nicely said. How about you, Barbara?
Yeah, I'd say empathetic storytelling. AI today can give you a lot of data, visualization, can give you information, but the context of it is something only the human can understand. AI can never be made accountable for any of the outcomes, right? Even today we see AI is used, ChatGPT is used by the same generation for different things, different research tasks, but AI cannot be held accountable. It is a person who develops the AI that's held accountable for. So, as a human who is responsible for AI or responsible for any email that you send for us, as simple as that, we need to be very empathetic about how it gets received on the other side of the person who is receiving it.
Thank you very much. How about you, sir?
I feel, by the way, I teach AI to a lot of executives and engineers, and I strongly feel humanizing communication is what going to differentiate people. And I also strongly believe original communicators, be it authors who don't use AI, speakers who don't use AI, and musicians who don't use AI, they are going to be paid hell a lot of money when compared to the people who are going to be paid for using AI to develop something, right? So humanizing communication is what will stand out by 2030. Because AI will generate lots of crap in the next 5 years.
Yes.
And if you want to stand out from the crowd, only when you write like human, only when you speak like human, act like human, then you'll be noticed.
And we even have a fancy word for it, hallucination. When AI does a mistake, it's not a mistake, it's hallucination. When you do it, it's a mistake. Over to you, Professor, about one single skill for the future.
Single skill, I would say the right attitude. Humility and attitude and the willingness to learn. That children must be, we must all inculcate us. And clubs like you all have a major role to play. If you all can get in, students who study in universities like mine and coach them. Because, what children lack these days, I think, is the humility. I mean, the fact that children know very little but their unwillingness to accept the fact that I know little. You see, when I was growing up, my teachers made me feel ashamed if I did not know anything, which meant that I had to go sit back, read, and then come. So to be a well-informed person, you were respected, whatever your age. But children these days know so little, but then they are so proud about it. So I think humility is required and the right attitude that young people need to have.
Wow. 4 different words of wisdom that are very key for us. Well, to sum up, we understood that it's more about approaching the right skill, using technology only as a tool, understanding different generations of skills, and be ready to be very human. On a single skill that I asked everyone, did you notice that none of them said anything about technology? All the skills they advised us were fundamental skills of communication or human relationship. Be it applying it to the user's convenience, or in your point, being empathetic and contextual, humanizing it, and humility. These are all our native skills. Let there be technology or whatever comes up in the future. We succeed in communication only when we understand the basics, when we understand why we are communicating and what is the other person standing at the other side of communication wants to receive. I hope this message was clear. So it gives me confidence. We need not worry about future. We need not worry about any technology that comes across. As long as we are strong in our basis, we are good to go. With these words, I would like to allow a few questions from the audience to the panelists, please. Go ahead, Pravina.
Yeah, I just wanted to tell Mr. Saru, you said how important human touch is when it comes to music. So I was just reminded of this interview by our great maestro Ilayaraja. He says even now he is relevant and he's also conducting a lot of symphony which is happening on 30th of May. He says he has not used AI till now and he is using only his emotions and his human touch to create music, and that's why even now, in spite of there being so many younger generations, we still love Ilayaraja. So I just want to thank you for that. Yeah.
Yes, Mr.
One question for ma'am. Ma'am, how you kindle the interest among the students to speak in English? Because here I see most of the students, as you said, feel shy to speak in English. What is one element which you normally use that to?
So one thing is for us, our children know the importance of English. For us, the challenge is getting them to speak sensibly when they are speaking. You know, content-wise, they could be very poor. So I know because these children come from very poor families and they feel that I teach mining engineering. Mining engineering will have some of the poorest of the poor coming into classrooms in CEG, in every campus. So in AC Tech, it could be the leather students who are very poor. In MIT, it could be the rubber technology students. So these could be hugely disadvantaged students in terms of their socio-economic background.
Yes.
So these children are very clear that if they get that job, then they know that that 65,000, I know mining, if they get into Vedanta and places like that, for them their salary, the first month's salary is 65,000, which is a huge amount compared to children who are doing their computer science and engineering. So for them, they are aware of the fact that they need to be fluent in English. The problem, I will tell you, is this, this attitude of I don't want to put in that effort. But somewhere overnight, I should be speaking in English and the interviewer must select me. But these days, interviewers also, if they find that you are a good engineer, they are willing to give you that job. And they feel that, they can coach them in English. So therefore, my students, I would say in that way, they are motivated. But you see, the problem today is, you don't know, 31 years ago when I began, the student who walked into Anna University wanted to be an engineer. So there was that pride. Today, children are walking in just as they would walk into some arts and science college. You see that difference there. They know, their thing is, I got a seat here, but not as if I want to be an engineer. You need to have that pride. I am studying engineering. I'm someone who can do so much in society. Our children lack that. So which means the basic skill, what am I learning, why am I learning? You understand? Now you also have students who come in that 7.5 category, which means the government takes over all your payment, including your hostel fees, which is 80,000 per semester in a public university like mine. Everything, they only have to carry their bags and come into the college classroom. To that extent, the government is offering them support. The sad part is they could be the most demotivated students in class because they have not fought their seat into our university. You see, they have been offered it on a platter. So you get the point. So it's a very complex psyche we are dealing with. Children know they come from poor families, so they know they have that thing, I must get that job. How will you get that job if you don't even put in 20% of the effort required? I must be good in English, but can it be done overnight? So it is very hard. It's very hard for the English teacher. But at 58, I use certain very age-old techniques to keep telling them repeatedly. And then, of course, the mining engineering department is one of those very well-performing departments in the university. So they have a lot of their seniors who are doing exceedingly well. They get them over into the classroom. They get them to talk to the students. Children need a lot of pep talk. They need a lot of hand-holding. They cannot face criticism. But you have to be stern with them. You see, sir, so it is difficult. For all of us, aging people, it is difficult because you have a generation that wants big but does not want to work for it.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Toastmasters can be a solution also.
Sir?
Toastmasters in the
Yes,
University can be a
yes,
solution.
yes.
If you'd excuse me, I already have the red card waving at me for the past 1.5 minutes. So really thank you very much for all the services you're doing for the needy in terms of knowledge and education, not in terms of materialistic benefits. So you are also taking care of shaping them, not just preparing them as engineers. That was a good information for us. I hope you all enjoyed the session. However, you can still have your Q&A during a break with our dignitaries. With these words, I thank you very much for being on this. Stay with us for a moment. I invite our president and the MCs to be on stage.
That was an insightful and enlightening session, and it was a very true masterclass in every sense of what they said. So now I request President of our club, Toastmaster Jayashree, to facilitate the panelists.
Jayashree, take it.